good morning. Fantastic, great, absolutely marvelous morning. To God be all the glory. Welcome to January the 15th Perspective with Edwina B, y'all, Miss Cuckoo for Cocoa Pops lady, and you'll see why as I present to you my perspective on the AA Alcoholics Anonymous Daily Reflection Readings, incorporating the 5 agreements by the Uwees family. Woo! What a great morning to be alive, to be able to dream, and to be able to dream because we are living a dream right now. And guess what? According to the 5 agreements, we are the artists and life is our canvas. What are you going to create today? All right. So I want to start off by asking you to join me in a moment of silence as I play an instrumental song of one of my favorite songs. Your grace and mercy brought me through. I'm living this moment because of you. I want to praise you and thank you too, for it was your grace and your mercy that brought me through. So I don't represent Alcoholics Anonymous and I don't represent the 5 agreements, right? Well, what I do represent is my journey of a spiritual expansion, explosion using the 12 recovery principles of Alcoholics Anonymous and now incorporating the 5 agreements. I'm on fire. Woo! So, woosah, Edwina, woosah. Okay. Join me in a moment of silence. Turn off your phone, turn off your radio, your TV, and make sure you invite somebody because you never know who this message may be for. Okay. Your grace and mercy brought me through. I'm living this moment because of you. I want to praise you and thank you too, for it was your grace and your mercy that brought me through. It never gets old, old, old. Why? Because every moment, every second that I can breathe is because of his grace and mercy. Listen, y'all know I'm transparent, right? I can't wait to do this next part. 33 plus years ago, almost 33 plus years ago, underneath a parked car in the streets of Philadelphia, after getting high and doing all kind of sexual favors with my own stepson. He was in his addiction and I was too. And when we indulge, we transform, and we are Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde 1,000 times over. And as everything was concluding and everything was done and over, he proceeded to want to harm me like any bitch in the street. And as a force unknowns to me, but most times when we are afraid, we run. And I started running, I believe, for my life. And a flashback from my past, when I would go underneath the bed to keep my father or my brothers or my sisters or my mother from harming me, playing hide and seek, didn't want nobody to touch me or find me, I would hide underneath the bed. So as I was running, I saw a slew of parked cars. And I said to myself, if I just get underneath that car, he can't get to me. And I put myself underneath that parked car, only weighing 90 pounds, face all sunken in, eyes all dark, hair all short, right? No teeth, yes, huh? And I saw my life flash before me. The rapes, the beat-ups, the suicide, my family disowning me, my children ashamed of me, self-loathing myself, right? How at the age of 34 did I get underneath that parked car? Aspirations of being a model, a phys ed teacher, was the class vice president, coach, the cheerleader team. I can't wait to do this, y'all. And listen, I hollered out to this inner resource that I did not know, which is our topic today. From the Daily Reflections, I cried out, whoever they say you are, whoever they say you are, whoever they say you are, take me out this life now or show me a better way, y'all. It doesn't get old because it's like it was this morning at 3 o'clock underneath that parked car. And my stepson trying to beckon me out from underneath the car, but I had enough. I was done. So whoever they say you are, take me out now or show me a better way. And the inner resource, unknowing to me, met me underneath that parked car, just the way I was, and accepted me just the way I was. So what you see here are nothing but masks. And I can't wait to take them off because the 12 spiritual principles help me to remove all the masks that I've been wearing all of my life, even now, just to prove a point, right? If God accepted me then, he will accept me now, just the way I am. Transparency. Woo-hoo! I love it, right? I don't need the makeup. I don't need the makeup. No. And guess what? I can't wait to do this. I can't wait to take these out. Even though cocaine and crack and alcohol took my teeth, recovery gave me some new ones. I think this is about my second or third set of dentures, all to prove that transparency is the best. Authenticity is the best. I am free to be me, and I want to learn how to be even freer. And that's why almost 33 years later, I stay connected to the 12 spiritual principles of Alcoholics Anonymous, now incorporating the 5 agreements by the Ue's family. And I can't wait to dive into today's topic, an unsuspected inner resource. I'm going to put these back in for articulation and pronunciation purposes. But if you see them come out or drop down, I'm going to take them out. I love me today. I love me today, y'all. I love me today just the way I am, because I've learned this is just a vessel. This is just the mold. It does not represent who I am. The spirit within represents who I am and who God intended me to be and who he is preparing me to achieve my purpose and my destiny. Woo! Okay, let's go. I got to push them out the shot. Hopefully they'll stay there, but if not, I'm going to take them out. That's why I show y'all, right? Because there's times I can't find my dentures. And so now that you know and seen me without them, I have no problem coming on and continuing to do what God told me to do. I am not who I am possessed in this body. I am the spirit that's possessed in this body, that occupies this body. And Donna Lawrence says it best. You are not a natural being having a spiritual experience. No, you are a spiritual being encased and walking this natural experience here on earth. All right. So let's get to our topic for today. Okay. And I'm going to ask you, let's take a sip of coffee to my boy Billy D, right? Billy D. Billy D, yes. I have a cup of coffee with him every morning. Let's go. All right. Okay. Now, I want you to put on your spiritual ears, right? And I'm going to show you today what the topic is, January the 15th, my perspective, right? Irina B. Cuckoo for Cocoa Pops on the AA Daily Reflection entitled An Unsuspected Inner Resource, while I incorporate the 5 agreements by the Ueasy family. Please, 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 please get these books. Go online and listen to the audio version. It will change your life. Oh my God, it works just like the 12 spiritual principles work. Practice, practice, practice. And guess what? You will be transformed. All right, so put on your spiritual ears and let's go to the reading for today. All right, now, so January the 15th, AA Daily Reflection, an unsuspected inner resource. And the co-founder, Bill W., takes a quote from the Alcoholics Anonymous Big Book, pages 567 and 68. And he states, with few exceptions, our members find that they have tapped in unsuspected inner resource which they presently identify with their own conception of a power greater than themselves. Oh, I can't wait. And the person in recovery shares his perspective. He shares, from my first days in AA, as I struggled for sobriety, I found hope in these words from our founders. I often pondered the phrase, they have tapped in unsuspected inner resource. How, I asked myself, can I find the power within me since I am so powerless? In time, as the founders promised, it came to me. I have always had the choice between goodness and evil, between unselfishness and selfishness, between serenity and fear. That power greater than myself is an original gift that I did not recognize until I achieved daily sobriety through living AA's 12 steps. Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm writing my dissertation on how 20 people in recovery use the 12 spiritual principles to identify a higher power and to identify the God of their understanding. And every time I see something else, I said, I need to include that. I need to include that. But guess what? I'm definitely going to include that quote, right, among many. But this one kind of hit home because it talks about other people's experience. And the reality is, I need to experience. I need that experience. I need to feel. I need to tap into that inner, right, resource. And God knows I did, right? So let's go and dissect the reading, all right? All right, so it says here, with few exceptions, let's stop there. We know that not everything is for everybody, right? But I tell you what is and who is, that's the creator himself. He's for everything and everybody, right? But here on this earthly journey, not all shoes fit all the people, right? Everybody got different sizes. Everybody got different this, different that, but they are united in the human race, right? That are designed for a variety of things. And so it says here, with few exceptions, with few exceptions, not 100%, right? But with few exceptions, right? He goes on to say, our members find that they have tapped an unsuspected inner resource which they presently identify with their own conception of a power greater than themselves. Did you hear that? Right? Right? Identify with their own conception. See, this is what people and I didn't understand. We're thinking that everybody's supposed to think the way we think, act the way we act, and what a lie. As the agreements talk about, what a big lie, what a host of lies, right? That were embedded in us from our childhood, right? And because our parents and their parents and generations back didn't know, but the Toltec uh, culture tapped into that inner resource. And it says, with their own. This is an individual journey. We may all be together, but we all have to walk alone sometimes. But we're never alone. We don't know that. But sometimes we have to walk alone. And that's where that knee bowing experience is going to come from. Because as you walk, you will get to the point where you realize that you are not walking by yourself. And when you fall and when you collapse, there is a power greater than all of us who will pick us up, right? Because we are going to confess with our tongue, help me, help me, help me. And that was my experience underneath that parkour. And so, with the conception of my own, right, understanding of a higher power, I was taught that God was a punishing God. Edwina, you a bad girl. You lie, you steal, you do this, you do. You a bad girl. God gonna get you. So that belief of what God was instilled in me for a very long time. But I tell you what, during those times when my life was in danger, I bet you I'll use that foxhole prayer. Lord, get me out of this. I won't do this. Lord, get me out of this. Right. And so when it talks about, right, they presently identify with their own conception of a power greater than themselves, right? And so when we admit through the first step, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, but our lives had become unmanageable. Yes. And step 2 says, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And sanity only means restored to soundness of mind. So that power greater than me took on different forms until such time I was convinced, right, that there is a God. And I need to know who he is, who did for me what no human being could have done. No human being is capable of doing. And through that second step, I adopted that word, right? There is a God. And I believe it wholeheartedly, okay? So, a conception of your own. We all have to travel alone, even when we're in a crowd. Okay. Now let's see what the alcoholic in recovery shares. He says, from my first days in AA, as I struggled for sobriety. Can you get in touch with that? Have you been in a situation where you were in so much pain and such a dilemma, and the first couple of days was rocky, and oh my God, and you thought you just couldn't go through it, and it was just so overwhelming? But that's the beginning of the process. And many of us in this world give in, right, to that pain, to that negative emotion that I can't do it. But if we endure the pain, right, if we are painstaking through this phase, oh my God, what a wonder we will have. And so he states, right, from my first days in AA, as I struggled with sobriety, I found hope in these words from our founders. And he's talking about the words that we just quoted from the Alcoholics Anonymous book. He continues to say, I often pondered the phrase, they have tapped an unsuspected inner resource. And when he said they have, we are talking about our predecessors, those who had the same disease of alcoholism, those who had the same struggle, right? Those who had the same adversities and challenges, right? For those who've been there and have gone and endured the pain to get to the other side, and we begin to hear what they have to say, we begin to read what they have for us to read, and we gain hope. Like, I'm trying to give somebody hope right now, just one person to give you hope, to give you hope. Oh my God. So okay. All right, so he says, right? So, and this is what they say: they have untapped and unsuspected inner resource. How, I ask myself, can I find the power within since I am so powerless? Right? That sharing, right, of a people's story, gave him hope. And he said, well, how can I get that? How is it possible for me? Oh, yes, 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 it is. Yes, it is. Because I too was like, how did they do that? I used to think when people came into the rehabs and sharing their story, they were lying. They got paid. They were actors and actors, and I didn't believe it. But then this one girl, she shared her story, and I'm telling you, she shared it in such a way that was totally transparent, totally authentic, and she did not sugarcoat nothing. And not only did she share her story, she shared her story of triumph by participating in her own recovery, utilizing the 12 spiritual principles, right? And so I sat there and I said, God, if you keep me sober long enough, I want to be able to share just like her. I wanted to be able to share just like her. All the people in that room, she touched me. And I've been cuckoo for Cocoa Pops ever since, right? Okay. And so now that he knows, now, so he asked the question, how can I find the power within myself, since he is so powerless? Powerless what? Over his alcoholism, right? And you'll learn in recovery that you are powerless over a whole lot of things. And that's why that serenity prayer, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, courage to change the things that I can, right? And the wisdom to know the difference. And then sometimes when it comes to us and people, God, grant me the serenity to accept people I cannot change, the courage to change the person that I can, and the wisdom to know that that person is me. That's what all the 5 agreements are about. Focusing on you, focusing on me. And so when we learn to become transparent and we learn to become authentic, we are free. That's why I can take off my teeth, take off my wig, take off my makeup. Listen. You talking about freedom, y'all? Ooh, okay. All right. So then he says here, right? And time, as the founders promised, it came to me, right? He said, in time. And we have an acronym for time. This I must earn in time, by keep coming back, by keep being in service, by keep going to meetings, by being in recovery, not on the outskirts of recovery, by participating in your own spiritual transformation using these 12 spiritual principles and around people with the same mindset, right? In time. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And people want to know why y'all keep reading the same thing over and over again. And even the 5 agreements, they say, why people keep repeating, practice, right? Because repetition is so important, because that's how, right? The 5 agreements talking about how in our early days, in our early life, we were given attention to those who were responsible for us and the community that we lived in and the society that we lived in, right? But we were children then and didn't have a choice. But now that we are adults, we do have a choice. And they call getting that attention and making those agreements, right? And utilizing the 12 spiritual principles in step 4 and 5, we learned where those belief systems were formulated, how, by whom, what circumstances, and the part that I played in it. And at one point, I no longer agreed with those prior agreements because I put myself underneath a parked car. And it wasn't until I hollered out to this guy that I didn't know, whoever they say you are, take me out or show me a better way. That was my first agreement. That was my first agreement of being impeccable with my word. I don't want to do this no more, right? And so as he continued, right, he says, because the founders promised him it will come to him in time. And so he says, I have always had the choice between goodness and evil, between unselfishness and selfishness, between serenity and fear. Oh my God. We make choices all day long, don't we? Oh, yes. We make choices all day long. And whatever spirit is going to occupy this vessel, that decision or that choice will manifest itself, right? But now that we are brought to a level of consciousness through applying and practicing the 12 spiritual principles and now incorporating the 5 agreements, we have elevated to a new level of consciousness. So yes, we do know the difference between right and wrong, good and evil, unselfishness and selfishness. And here is the best one: serenity and fear. False evidence appearing real. Who wants that? I want the truth. I want the light. I want serenity. And this is how the co-founder shared with him how he could obtain it. And he did. Listen to this last sentence, right? He says here, that power greater than myself is an original gift that I did not recognize until I achieved daily sobriety through living AA's 12 step. That power greater than myself is an original gift. Who air am I breathing through my lungs? Who gave me the function of my limbs? Who's allowing me to hear, touch, feel, and taste? Who's allowing me to be a part of this earthly journey? A power greater than myself. Look about you. Look around you. Have you ever stopped to wonder how, where did it all begin? And the fact that I'm sitting here before you right now demonstrates that there is a gift within me. And I didn't even know it. I didn't even know it until I had that knee bowing experience. And I cried out, whoever they say you are, take me out this life or show me a better way. And that power, right? That inner strength, that gift. In recovery, we say God gave us the gift of sobriety, right? And we have to ask ourselves, well, what gift are you going to give to God? And that is to stay sober and be willing to help another alcoholic achieve sobriety. Just one, Edwina, just one. All right. And so I get so emotional because I don't know. It says, I recognize that gift, right, until I achieve daily sobriety through living the AA 12 steps. I was living the old belief system, right, that I was raised on by my parents, by my community, by my society, by the earthly planet, what, right? And now that I see that that old belief system did not work for me, and it put me underneath that park car, and it also gave me the doubt that who am I? I'll be wearing all these masks all my life. No more mask. No more mask. No more mask, right? And so the 12 spiritual principles, right? It says living them. We all talk the good talk, right? But they taught us, and one of the 5 agreements says, learn to listen, be skeptical, right? Learn to listen and make sure that what you're hearing and what you're saying to yourself, right, is based on unconditional love and not conditions, right? And so I believe that living the 12 spiritual principles in my life. Now incorporating the 5 agreements, I'm on fire. Woo! All right. So you know what? Today is Sunday, right? And I may spend a little more time because I don't have to stop at 7 o'clock because my meeting on Sundays is at 9. So wow, let me slow down. All right. All right. So now, when we talk about, right, these 12 spiritual principles, we are talking about adopting a new way of life. We are talking about learning a new pathway to spiritual growth. Most of us, like me, thought it was just the human mechanism, right? The human part of us, right? Not giving much thought to the spiritual part. What? Listen, I'm from Philly, right? And I used to see the state stores, they call them state store, liquor store. It says wines and spirits, right? And okay, wines and spirits, that's the name of the store, right? But in recovery, I learned about this being a vessel, this being a vessel, right? And that whatever I induce into this vessel, right, that's going to create some type of transformation, right? That spirit is going to operate through this vessel. It's going to manifest through this vessel, right? And so when I got into recovery, I say, wines and spirits, okay. You drink my wine, you're going to get a spirit. Wow. I was like, oh my. And then some of them had the nerve to say wines and good spirits. I want the spirit of my creator. I want to be loving and caring and unselfish. I want to be giving, and I want to learn how to do it all unconditionally. Why? Because my God, who I now know, loves me unconditionally and accepts me just the way I am. I learned that through the 12 spiritual principles of a 12-step program. And so have other people who are in recovery from eating and lusting and sexing and loving and stealing, right? We all have some kind of addiction. And the other day, when I heard something online about where the source of addiction came from. Oh my God. And I can't say it correctly, but you go online, and you type in the source of the word addiction, and it goes back to slavery. It goes back to there was a master and a slave, right? And that master had power over that slave, and that slave had to succumb to the master's every demand. And so now, looking at the disease of addiction, looking at alcohol, looking at drugs, looking at lust, looking at negativity, right? That has and can become our master, and we become addicted to that master. We become a slave to that master. So that makes sense to me, right? And so you have some people who doubt that addiction is a negative thing, right? And the gentleman was saying we are all addicted to something. We all have good habits and we all have bad habits. Well, I'm not going to get into all that because I'm not trying to confuse you. I'm trying to stay on point with the 12 spiritual principles and the 5 agreements. Like I said, do your own research. Do your own research. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And God knows I am one willing student. I want to learn all I can about being authentic, by being transparent, and not just being, but living, practicing it. Because I've learned that I am the light of the world. I learned that everything is a light of the world. I've learned that my God is the light. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. All right. So now let's get into incorporating the 5 agreements and relating it to the reading today. All right. So here, and I want y'all to go to W.W. Miguel Uiz, MIGUELRUIZ.com to learn about the 5 agreements, right? This is the book of the 4 agreements. And guess what? They have a slew of books that talks about achieving the 5 and additional new agreements by discarding the old agreements, right? All right, so the first one says, be impeccable with your word. There was a time in man's journey that all a man had was his word. Remember that? Okay. And in some cases, right, the word, his word, either was fulfilled or it wasn't, right? And so here they are saying for many years, because of these prior agreements, right, we have been speaking sin against ourselves and sin against other people, because the word peccable means sin against. The word impeccable means without sin. And so I'm going to practice, right, being impeccable with my word, starting with me talking to myself. Instead of saying, Edwina, you can't, it's impossible. Edwina, you know you're wrong. Edwina, no. I want to say, Edwina, yes, you can. Edwina, you will. Edwina, you know where the power is. Edwina, you are. Not maybe, you are. And when I start being impeccable with my word toward me, right, I'm going to use that same analogy toward you and others, right? Not sinning against you or not sinning against anything, because this is what it says, right? It says, speak with integrity, with the utmost respect. Speak with integrity to yourself and toward others. Integrity. When you have integrity for yourself, you can have it for others. All right. And then he says, right? He says, say only what you mean. I can. I will. I am. Speak only what you mean. When I share with other people, when I talk to other people, I want to say exactly what I mean. I don't want to give a lot of jargon and a lot of hype. No, say what you mean and mean what you say. Be impeccable with your word towards yourself and others. And one of the examples, the other thing it says, use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. And so what I just gave you was telling myself that I love me today. Oh my God, I love me today. I love me today. I am discovering the truth. The truth. And guess what? It doesn't happen overnight. I was underneath that parked car at the age of 34. I'm 67 now. And thank God that he is not on man's time, which is secular time. God is on sacred time. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And so now I had the remaining of my life to become the artist that the 5 agreements talk about and change my story from negativity to positivity, meaning all those things that I went through, learned, are not in vain. No, they're not. It was needed for me to come free, to share the light and to share the truth, because someone did it for me, and I'm hoping to do it for you. All right. And so the power of truth and love, right? So I can say, Edwina, I love you. And if you're around my grandchildren, listen, that's all I say to them all day long, right? I love you. I love you, Mook Mook. I love you, Nene, right? And then out of nowhere, they say, I love you, Grandma. I was like, oh, yes. Instead of what we used to get, Some of us, when we were small and we were children, I'm not even going to mention it because I'm not trying to give it power. Okay, but you know those things, right? And so I've learned to love myself, practicing loving me unconditionally. And therefore, when I do that for me, I can try my best to do it for you. All right. So let's go to um, the examples. Okay. Example one, it says, I was told I will never be nothing, and they were right. Now, that's me talking to myself because of words I heard as a child from different people, but mainly, the ones who are closest to us. You'll never be nothing. You'll never be nothing. You'll never be nothing. You'll never be nothing. I didn't think I believed it, but I believed it because it was demonstrated in my actions in becoming a drug addict, an alcoholic, a prostitute. Hmm. Yeah. Even with aspirations of being a model, a phys ed teacher, right? Voted one to most likely to succeed, vice president of my class, right? I had aspirations and dreams, but somewhere in my essence, I believed I would be nothing. But underneath that park car, I'm telling you, was very humiliating, but it was the most humbling experience in hindsight that I had and that I needed, and that it was God's turn to say, I got you now because you're ready. No reservations, no hesitation, total surrender. Dogs and cats go underneath a parked car, not human beings. Mhm. So be impeccable with your words. I am something. I am somebody, right? And let's see if I can get this right. I am a nobody trying to tell everybody about somebody who can help anybody. Okay? I hope I got it right, but you got the gist of it, right? So God prepared me by meeting me underneath that parked car. He was already in. That was that inner resource. That was that inner gift that began to illuminate once I called him in. And he knows when you're ready. He knows when you're ready. He knows you. He knows me. He knew I was ready. Yes, he did. I could not live one more moment like that. And I gave this unknown power greater than me the choice to take me out or show me a better way. All right. So that's towards myself. And then here's another example for somebody else. Did you hear that Mary and Joe are having an affair? That's sinning against others. That's embracing negativity. That's embracing gossip. And in essence, that's sinning against other people, right? Mm. Those is the example of, right? Mm. Be impeccable with your word, with you and with others. And it's working. It's working, y'all. Every time I get a negative thought about me, I say, no. Oh, hell no, 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 no. And every time I go to judge, oh no, it mean no, 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 no. Okay. And so it is working. Thank God for the 12 spiritual principles and the 5 agreements. All right. So let's go to the next one. Right. Let's see. All right. The next one says, don't take anything personally. Don't take anything personally. Now, with the 4th and the 5th step in recovery, The fourth step says take a fearless and thorough more inventory of ourselves, right? And so it says for us to go as far back as we can remember to where those attitudes, ideas, behaviors, belief system, right, actions were first formulated by whom, in what situation, what circumstances, right, and the part that I played in it, right? And so now I have the opportunity to review my original story, right, and change the narrative, change my perspective. Why? Because I have a better understanding of what happened. Not what's wrong with me, but what happened to me and millions of all, I don't know how many human beings it is on this earth, right? But what happened? And now that I've done that inventory and I have a different perspective because I understand. I have clarity. One, because I stopped drinking. Yes, I stopped escaping, right? I stopped taking things personally. That's all we do most of the time, right? And even up until the day, right? Just yesterday, somebody said something to me like, Edwina, somebody said to me, I need to get a hold of you. And she said, no, that's Edwina, right? But for 1 second, my thought said, well, who said that? See what I mean? And this has been almost 33 years in recovery. But guess what? I immediately filtered that negative thought out and placed it with positivity. I am who I am because I know who I am and whose I am. And I know that I'm on this new spiritual path, and that if I practice these 5 agreements, incorporating the 12 spiritual principles, guess what? I love me today. So we need to stop taking things personally, both negative and positive, right? So let's see what it says here. It says here, nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality, their own dream. Oh my God, y'all. When I did my 4th step and when I read that agreement, it just makes so much sense spiritually because we only know what we know when we know it, right? And as a result, if I look at myself, then I can say my parents really didn't know, right? Their parents really didn't know, right? And everybody in the world was taking things personally, whether you were given accolades or whether you were given negativity, right? And so it says, don't take anything personally. Why? Because it's coming from that person's own perspective. Why is it that we can get 100 people in the room and 99% say you did a good job, right? And one person says you did a terrible job, right? So either one of them can elevate my ego and my pride, but then the one that didn't, right, I say, So I don't need to take nothing personally because it was from their own perspective, their own reality, their own dream about who they think I am and what they think I do and what they think I feel. It was their own. And that is none of my business. Whew, this stuff is freeing. All right. And so it says, when you are immune to the opinions and actions of others, you won't be the victim of needless suffering. Did you hear that? See, when we had people giving us like kudos and after a while you think you're doing it. You start ego tripping, right? You start being grandiose and all that old kind of stuff, right? Hell to the no. I practice remaining, being humble at all times because that trip can take me someplace else, right? And it's the same thing when someone says something negative, right? And guess what? Most of the time we are our worst enemies, right? And so know, we can elevate ourselves and think we the big shots, right? Because of the mask we wear, right? And then we could also be our worst enemy and saying, Edwina, you wear that mask, but you go home, you ain't nothing. You'll never be nothing. That old tape's coming back, right? And so either one, practice not taking anything personally from yourself or from other people. I will be immune to needless suffering. I don't want to waste no more time suffering. No, I do not. So I am experiencing so much freedom, y'all. Y'all just don't know. But I want you to find out, okay? This is a journey you have to walk alone, but there's people like me here to help you. And so one example says, my mother said I was just like my dad. Bad. Ooh. This hit home. Out of all my mother's 6 children, I'm the only one who looked exactly like my dad. Wear my hair like my dad. Whatever my dad wanted, I wanted. Whatever my dad didn't want, I didn't want, right? And because my mother had so much hatred and resentment during the pregnancy of carrying me, when I came out and she saw how I looked just like my dad, those feelings and those thoughts began to manifest in her actions towards me until one day she said, Edwina, you're just like your dad. But my perception of my dad was he was this and he was that, and I'm going to be like my dad. I don't want to be like you, mommy. I want to be like my dad. In a lot of ways, I found out I'm more like my mother than my dad, right? All right, so let's continue, right? And the next one was, you can't sing, your voice is awful. And so in the 5 agreements, you will read that story where the mother came home and she had a bad day and her daughter was in the shower, out the shower singing. She was such a good mood. And the mother was not trying to hear none of that. And she told that girl, shut up, you can't even sing, huh? Just shut up. That girl took it personally. And for a long time, she didn't sing. Until she found her truth in her life. And she's been singing ever since, right? So don't take anything personally, right? All right. So let's go to the next one, right? The next one is, don't make assumptions, right? Find the courage to ask questions and to express what you really want. Now, you know, when we in recovery and we don't know anything about the 12 steps, the 12 traditions, the 12 concepts, the fellowship, we don't know, right? Let me tell you what one assumption I did not make. Because when I was underneath that parked car, I knew where I was, right? But prior to that, my assumption was I was going to have a good time with my stepson and we're going to do that. And it didn't turn out that way. It didn't turn out the way that I assumed it would. But underneath that parked car, when I hollered out to this guy that I didn't know to take me out this life or show me a better way, that was it. Take me out or show me a better way. I don't know what's ahead of me. I sure know what's behind me. And if you choose to if you choose to keep me here, then I'm going all the way or I'm not going. And one day at a time, I'm not going to assume about something that I know. I'm going to ask questions, and I still ask questions till the day. I ain't afraid to ask questions, and guess what? I want you to ask me any question you want. I have no secrets. I have no secrets. I tell on myself. Yes, I do. Now, with the 12 spiritual principles, we learn what to tell, who to tell, when to tell it, but I have no secrets. I am free, right? And I am going to practice not making any assumptions. When we make assumptions, we're trying to project the future. No, I want to stay with this present gift. It's a present and it's now. Right? So I practice not assuming. And so let's go with some of the examples. he says here, right, communicate with others as clearly as you can to avoid misunderstandings, sadness, and drama. And you will see in the five agreements, the story on the online, how, we make assumptions, right? And it's all in our head. It's all in our belief system. It's all in our history. It's all about us and not about the truth, right? So it just makes sense now, and that's what they say. It's just common sense. it's it's nothing, right? It's just common sense. Don't make assumptions. Wait. Ask the questions. Make the phone call. Write the email. Write the note. Ask the question. So you can have clarity instead of trauma that I created in our own heads. Okay. All right. Then it says here, right? With just this one agreement, you can completely transform your life. I am a witness of that since I've been practicing these 12 spiritual principles for nearly 33 years. Come February the 23rd of 2023, we will be celebrating 23 years. And I have been practicing, and I will continue to practice. Why? Because I'll never be perfect. And I accept that. Yes, when I fall or I stumble, it's going to be in a forward position, never a backward position. You hear me? I practice not giving anything or anybody that much power ever again to make me go back to drinking. Oh, hell to the no. All right. All right. So here goes some of the examples. He says here, he is late because he is cheating on me. How can we relate to that? When in fact he was at the store buying us flowers, or his charger wasn't charging his phone. So listen, this is a tough one, right? Because we're used to taking things personally, right? We're used to sinning against ourselves and sinning against others, right? And we're used to making assumptions, and all that has caused a very unhappy life, right? And therefore, you can't create nothing, right? Until you change that negative into positive. All right. And so we are guilty of that. I know I've been. Example number 2. Even though I studied, I know I failed that test. No, you don't. Listen, I just became a Part 107 commercial pilot, right? Through operating drones. And I took the class, and they had 5 practice tests. The first test I got without studying a 50. The second time I didn't study again, I got a 53, right? I said, well, let me study. The next one, I got a 70, right? And then I said, okay, I need to study. So the next one, I think I got a 75, right? And so, and then the last one, I got a 78, right? Because I studied. And so when I did take the test, right, I took the test, I took my time, I did what I was supposed to do. And I didn't want to assume that I passed or didn't pass. I didn't even think that I did the best that I could, which is the next agreement, right? And so when I came out, I said, did I pass? Did I pass? He said, you passed. Yes. You got an 80. Yes, I got an 80. So listen, this one statement here says what? Even though I studied, I know I failed. No, you don't. No, you don't. And this next agreement says, when you are impeccable with your word, when you don't take anything personally, when you don't make assumptions, you are doing your best. And it says, your best is going to change from moment to moment. It will be different when you are healthy as opposed to sick. Under any circumstances, simply do your best and you will avoid self-judgment, self-abuse, and regret. Oh my God. When I use those 3 previous agreements, I will do my best at any given moment, because those things set the stage and the foundation for me to do my best. That makes sense, right? And then when it says, when I do that, I will avoid self-judgment, self-abuse, and regrets, right? And we shared yesterday, no regrets. I have no regrets. I have no regrets. Everything that has transpired my whole entire life has enabled me to be here sitting before you right now as the truth, as the light, and as love unconditionally, but all through practicing, right? All right, I ain't got but a couple minutes, right? Okay. And so here go in a couple examples. Forrest Gump, y'all remember him, right? He always did everything, right? Being happy, yeah, and not expecting any rewards, right? I make an effort to go to my AA meetings every day in one way, shape, form, or fashion. You better believe that, because 1 hour gives me the basis and everything else to live and practice the other 23 hours of joy, happiness, serenity, right? Purpose, right? Fulfillment, and staying sober and helping one more person achieve sobriety. Okay, I got one more minute. All right, so let's go to the next one, the last one, right? It says here, be skeptical, but learn to listen. Don't believe yourself or anybody else unconditionally. Those negative thoughts that you say to yourself, don't believe them, because they're based on conditions. Those things that people say to us or we say to them, right? Don't take it personally, right? Right? Because it's not unconditional. There's always conditions, right? Until we learn how to love and give unconditionally. Until that time, we place things based on conditions. We do things based on conditions. That's not light. That's not truth. That's not love. And it's definitely not freedom. All right. And it says here, use the power of doubt to question everything you hear. Is it really the truth? Listen to the intent behind the words, and you will understand the real message. And see, for me, that's the spirit of discernment. I'm not judging you. I'm not criticizing you, but I'm learning to listen, and not with my physical ears, but with my spiritual ears. There is a difference, okay? And the last example, it says, John said he will be a millionaire in 1 year, right? I listen. If it's God's will, what? Okay, I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. But I'll see you in a year. And guess what? I'm not going to say nothing to from what? I'm just listening, right? And that's the whole goal of the 12 spiritual principles, tapping into that unsuspected, right, inner resource. It's there because we are his creation. It's there. It's always been there, and it will always be there until he removes this vessel. Tap into your unsuspected inner resource and incorporate the 5 agreements by the Uiz family. Until tomorrow, if God chooses to wake us up, I'll see you then. In the meantime, be free, be free, be free. Practice transparency, authenticity, and unconditional love. It works.